It's called big mountain skiing. So trees, it's nothing like you see on TV. A lot of stuff you see in the Olympics, that's all park skiing, freestyle skiing. So that's tricks and stuff. That's not what I do. I do moguls, powder skiing, steep stuff, trees, big cliffs. So where I was skiing, it's at 13,000 feet. It's a bowl called the Lake Chutes. No trees around, super steep chutes, massive rocks, some big enough to where they're impossible to jump. And we were doing one called Pyramid Rock. It's in the shape of a pyramid. It's actually a pretty famous rock. If you ask any professional big mountain skier from Colorado, what's Pyramid Rock? They'd be like, oh, Lake Chutes, Ivan's one. They know exactly where it is and what it is. You have to jump a gap of about 80 feet to land in snow again. And you're falling 40, 45 feet in that 80-foot horizontal carry. We spent like 2 or 3 hours making sure all of our calculations, where we're gonna land, how fast we're going off of, where do we start our jump, how much speed do we need to get to carry all that. We figured that all out before without actually doing the jump. And I've done 20, 25-foot cliffs before, so I feel I'm comfortable falling that far, but that was definitely my biggest one by 2. That was a big jump. Maybe I jumped off the rock in a slightly different place, or maybe at the last minute I was like, oh, I think I can take a little boulder of a line. Let me try to this line. You make a lot of impromptu decisions when you're skiing. A lot of it is just reaction. It's not, you try your best to plan out the run, but from there, a lot of it is just reaction. Oh, I hit a rock here. I gotta put more weight in this foot now. Let me get my weight onto my toes. Oh, here comes some thicker snow. Let's get our weight back to the heels. Let's get those tips going up. There's a lot of reaction you go in skiing. And yeah, for all I know, I hit a slow spot 10 feet out from the top of the jump, and that slowed me down just enough. So I don't think we miscalculated anything. I think we did everything right. Yeah, for all I know is some wind or a slow spot of snow, or just an impromptu decision to think I can take a bigger line, or yeah, who really knows what it is. I did the falling just fine. Had a little grab in there. There's a really sweet picture. Completely in control throughout the entire jump. Landed on both skis. It's just, I missed our landing spot about 6 feet short. So if I had been 6 feet further, none of this would have happened, and missed it about 2 feet to the left. So if I'd been 2 feet to the right, would have landed totally fine. Landed on both skis in perfect control. And then after I landed on that first rock, that slows your body down, so that sends you going forward with your head. And the left 2 or 3 inches of my face went through another rock. Just went straight through it. Skis came off on the rock that I landed on, and then just went straight through that rock. The friend filming it couldn't really see all that much. There was a ton of powder that day, so I instantly just kind of went underneath some snow. So he just thought I had landed on a rock and was fine. So he was getting my skis. My other friend was starting to get my skis, and 2 guys who had seen what happened skied over to me just to make sure I was okay. And they saw my helmet open and the bleeding start, and they just yelled at my friends, like, stop what you're doing, get down here right now. Those 2 guys called Ski Patrol instantly. And when Ski Patrol got the phone call, they immediately put Flight for Life on standby. And it took them 2 or 3 minutes to get to me. They have a lodge up there, so they don't need to do any hiking. They just skied straight down to me. And the second, Ryan was my first responder, Ski Patrol. The second he saw me, he quickly gave Flight for Life the go-ahead, and they got up there in 26 minutes, spent 45 minutes on the mountain, and flew down in 18 minutes. So I crashed at like 1:07, and I was in the ICU before 3 p.m. that day. That is undoubtedly what saved my life, is just how fast they were able to save me. My parents didn't get down to the ICU until 5 or 6 that night, because they had to drive all the way down through some traffic, and I was down there before 3. They didn't see me for 2 or 3 hours until after the accident. It was pretty crazy. I say I am 98% there. The last 2% was just the physical strength I was at. Brain function wise, I'm 99.8% there. But mostly I'm just missing some physical strength. But that just takes a little extra time just getting in the gym. I had been in the gym a lot before my accident. I self-extubated on Christmas morning, or Christmas night actually. I self-extubated. My parents, my ICU nurse convinced my parents to go home and try to sleep at home for the first time. And they had been home for 45 minutes, an hour, and they got a phone call from my nurse, Kate. And my dad refused to answer the phone because he was scared something bad happened. So my mom finally answered it, and she started screaming when she heard what I did. So that was pretty cool. Best Christmas present, I hope. And after that day, I was able to start talking. I had purposeful movement after that day, so if you slapped me in the face, I would say ow, versus the 2 days before on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. If you had slapped me in the face or shot me somewhere, I wouldn't have flinched. My body wasn't working enough to be able to purposely move. If you had told me to raise a hand, wouldn't have done it. So after Christmas, I was able to start. If someone asked me a question or told me to do something, I would be able to do it well enough to the point where they knew I was going to live. And after that, I started getting better really quickly. They did neuro checks every 4 hours. Didn't matter what time of day. So if it was 4 in the morning and I was sound asleep, they would come in and wake me up and ask me a neuro check. The questions normally went, what year is it? Who's the president? What's your name? Where are you? Pretty standard all the time, just to make sure every 4 hours you knew exactly what was going on. And it got to a point where I was starting to get kind of fed up by these questions. So one time my night nurse, Jeff, came in. I don't remember this, my dad told me this, and asked me what year it was. And I was too tired, I didn't want to say anything, so I just held up a 2, 0, and then a 1, and then an 8. So I said 2018 with my hands, and he said, you know, that's good enough, you can go back to bed. So I don't remember this, but I was functioning enough to be able to make sense of things, to be able to respond to things, but not enough to ever remember any of these events. Over the 4 surgeries, that spans out to be about 15.5 hours. I've had 3 general anesthetic surgeries and 1 local anesthetic. The first surgery was the biggest one. It was a facial reconstructive surgery. So I have a plastic surgeon. He did that. Took him 10.5 hours. 36 screws and 6 plates into my face to fix. A brain surgeon checked my brain. There was a little bit of bleeding and a small tear, so they wanted to make sure they didn't need to do anything. So he peeked into my brain and decided it didn't need anything at the moment, which I'm so thankful for. And then my plastic surgeon took over and just put my face back together. And he had to piece bones together like a puzzle. That's why it took 10.5 hours. So I lost 20 pounds. I weighed 133 when I checked in, and I dropped all the way to 113. My friends were saying when they came to see me, that was one of the harder things. If I did sit up and if the covers came off of me, it was just frightening to look at someone. I've always been a small person, but when 113 pounds on a guy who's 5'8", 5'9", it's scary to look at. So they said that was one of the scarier things to look at, and it got to a point where not only could my brain wouldn't let me walk for balance issues, but also I just lost so much strength. I didn't have the muscle capacity to be able to stand myself up out of a wheelchair. The overall diagnosis was a traumatic brain injury. And there's different levels of those. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. So they did a CAT scan when I first checked into St. Anthony's after getting off the helicopter. After they stitched me up and stabilized me, then they started doing CAT scans and tests. And brain damage appears as white on a CAT scan. So if you were to do a CAT scan on someone who was totally healthy, it'd be just black. Your brain would look totally black. And the entire front part of my head was white, and the entire back part of my brain was white. And that happens because when you have a head-on collision, there's liquid around your brain that's cushioning it, it doesn't fill up your entire skull. So your brain actually slams forward and hits the front of your skull, and then it ricochets back with that same force and hits the back of your skull. And it just kind of goes back and forth until it settles down. So that's why I had the front part and the back part damaged. So memory issues, I think we're back here. And I know your prefrontal lobe is your social conduct part of your brain. And that part was severely damaged. So I couldn't stop swearing for like 10 days. I would not stop. My filter didn't work. I couldn't stop swearing. The way I would sometimes treat people really poorly. I called my nurses and therapists some names that I hope I would never call a human being. But I don't remember ever saying those, just because the social conduct part of my brain was pretty damaged. And then more physical injuries were maxillofacial fractures. So both cheekbones were completely shattered. My nose was off to the side of my face. Eye orbitals completely shattered, and I had a skull fracture right in the middle of my forehead. You can still feel it right there. And then I had 3 compression fractures in my thoracic spine. 6, 7, and 8 were compressed. So I was on a type of painkiller that I could have every 6 hours at a certain dose, and they switched me to one that I could have every 12 hours. So it was supposed to be longer acting, didn't have to worry about it as much. But that switch on such an addictive painkiller, it actually, after I'd been on one for 18 days, they just stopped it all of a sudden. No weaning off of it. They just cold stop and switched me to something different. And I went through 7 or 8 days of withdrawals. So I would be I probably threw up 40 or 50 times a day. Couldn't sleep, just sweating in my sleep. Wake up, my clothes and pillowcases is soaked with my sweat. Headaches, just can't focus, can't even speak with how bad they were. Had a country accent for about an hour. I woke up and started talking a country accent for like an hour, hour and a half. Okay. My sister was the only one in the room. She thought it was hilarious for like a minute or two. She was getting ready to like start filming it, and then she asked me to stop. I just wouldn't stop. And I just kept going, and then she ran out of the room screaming and got my nurse. It is a Burton Red helmet, which I actually named my new puppy's middle name is Red for my helmet. So yeah, made contact with the rock right where the chunk's missing, kind of that. This is on the right side, but made contact basically right in the middle. Pretty broken. Takes a lot of force to break one of these things, especially clean through. And then my goggles. So this saved my life, impact-wise. This took the brunt of the impact, which no doubt saved my life. I would have died on impact if it wasn't for this. And goggles saved a lot of my facial features. So just these thin 2 layers of plastic, which now don't exist on this side, they functioned as a protector for my skin. So the first thing people say to me when they hear what happened is how great I look. And that's 1, because I had a phenomenal plastic surgeon put it back together, but 2, because these goggles saved a lot of scarring. I had very few cuts on my body. The only cuts I had were around my lips, and you don't have protection there when you're skiing. You have a face mask. And so it's a weird feeling, because skiing's something that I've probably been the best at in my life. I'm a pretty serious golfer, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it. But I think I'm a lot better at skiing than I am at golf. I've been doing it since I was 5 or 6. Absolutely love it. I know Breckenridge better than I know myself. I can't imagine my life without skiing, so the thought of having to limit myself a little bit this year is a little emotionally degrading, but at the same point, my body went through a lot this winter, and I don't really know what it can handle. I definitely, in my lifetime, I don't know if I should ever tell my mom this, but on my bucket list, I put jump pyramid rock and land it. It's something that I want to successfully conquer. I'm not the type of kid just to like give up. I mean, it sounds bad, so do you really want to throw away all the hard work I already put in just for it to happen again? But that's how I've always lived my life. If something stopped me before, then I'm just going to get back up and do it over again until I figure it out. So I definitely will get back into jumping and some crazy stuff again before my days of skiing are over. Learned a lot just about who you are as a person, who other people are as a person. I spent a lot of time in the hospital, spent a lot of time that I actually have really solid memories of in the hospital, and I am forever thankful for those memories because they've changed who I am. 9 months ago, I was the most stereotypical 17-year-old junior in high school you could have imagined. Argued with my parents about the stupidest stuff, hated school, would procrastinate like crazy, made fun of people, and I've changed a lot now because for 36 days I had every single thing that I loved taken away from me, and for 3.5 months I had golf, one of the biggest parts of my life, taken away from me. And when you get something as simple as just being able to like wake up when you want to, or being as simple as being able to shower yourself, not having a nurse come in and have to shower you, or just being able to stand up. When you get stuff like that taken away, you learn a lot about just appreciating these smallest things. I respect people in a whole different way because you don't really know what's going on with someone. I had 2 facial surgeries, and he said I looked really different, and it was comments like that they sting and they hurt, but you want to make sure you never make that comment to someone. And 9 months ago I might have said that to someone. I would complain if I had a busy night of homework before, and I just keep telling myself, at least I'm able to have a busy night of homework, at least I'm able to be in school, at least I'm able to talk to teachers, at least I'm able to get assigned this homework, because I was really close to never being able to do homework again. And it sounds stupid, but for those 36 days I really missed doing homework. Just when you get that much stuff taken away from you, you learn how to appreciate such small things. And you also, I learned a lot that when before my accident, I lived my life in a way that I thought if I won a golf tournament, that defined me. I thought if I played well at states, that defined me. I thought if I was the varsity 1 on my team, that defined me. I thought if I got an award, that defined me. I thought if I was a popular kid, that defined me. I thought things like that. I thought if I got a big paycheck, that defined me. But I live by kind of a motto now that it's not your highest points that define you, it's not your victories that define you, it's your lowest points and how you recover from them. That is really what defines you. At the end of the day, I don't think it really matters how many trophies you have or how many times your name's been carved into the wall. I think it matters when you were at square 0, did you get back to square 100 or did you only make it to 95? Because I think the people that live their whole life at 95%, I think the person who can make it from 0 to 100 is 100 times better than that person who just lives their whole life at 95%. I don't think people realize that in a fight, you don't just dominate your opponent. You have to take a few punches as well. And I don't think there's ever been someone in a fighting ring to win the fight without ever getting hit once. You have to hit in order to win, and you're never going to win if you don't take a few punches. And I feel like I've taken my fair share of punches through 18 years of my life. But I definitely think that I've beaten life a lot more than a lot of my friends have. And I want other people to notice that, or to realize that you're going to have to get beaten down, you're going to have to get knocked down, but that's how you grow. You don't just keep growing. You got to take a few punches in a fight in order to win.